here of YugaTech, and the VIVO V11 is fresh off its global launch and is now in the ring with the rest of the mid-range smartphone segment. We already did a comparison with the OPPO F9, but there's another phone that we absolutely need to put it up against, the Nova 3i, of course. Huawei's immensely popular mid-range offering. So what exactly are you getting if you choose to get the V11 or the Nova 3i? Well, you're about to find out. This is our comparison review of the VIVO V11 and the Huawei Nova 3i. We're gonna take a look at the specs and features through the lens of the following categories: design and build quality, display, camera, processor, RAM, storage, software, and of course, the most important one to most of you, price. Let's begin. Design and build quality is up first. Now both these phones have strong designs, but what immediately sets them apart are the color choices. So V11 has this gradient effect back, and this unit we have here gives off a dark blue or dark purple glow, depending on how you look at it. The Nova 3i also has a gradient effect, but it's not subtle at all. It's very shiny, and the blue and purple shifts around, depending on the angle you look at it. So on one hand, we have a more muted, stealthy look with the V11, and the Nova 3i is all out and shamelessly shiny. For me personally, I like the Nova 3i shiny backside a little more, but then we get to the notch, which is where things change a little bit. So both of these phones have notches. The Nova 3i has a more traditional rectangular notch, while the V11 has a very small one that VIVO calls the Halo notch. I'm not gonna lie, I really love how minimal the V11's notch is, as it gives a more borderless look to the front of the phone. So in terms of aesthetics, I'm gonna give this one to the V11, but again, it's a matter of personal preference in this matter. So let's talk about build quality. Both phones have a metal frame, but the V11's back is not actual glass, it's polycarbonate. The Nova 3i uses real glass that is much tougher and more scratch resistant, but this makes it feel stronger and a lot more premium. Having used both these phones, I'm gonna give build quality to the Nova 3i. Alright, let's keep it going. Let's talk about the displays. The Nova 3i has a 6.3-inch screen, while the V11 is slightly bigger at 6.41 inches. Both have a resolution of 1080p and an aspect ratio of 19.5:9, but the actual display technologies are different. The Nova 3i has an IPS panel, while the V11 uses Super AMOLED. IPS displays are great. They provide good viewing angles, accurate colors, and they get bright enough for outdoor use. Super AMOLED though has the advantage of having more vibrant colors, deeper blacks, and can also get bright. Viewing angles suffer a little bit, but you don't really notice it with regular use. Given that, the V11 takes a strawberry cheesecake for display, not just because of the Super AMOLED screen, but also because of the much smaller notch. Let's not forget about that. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty part of this comparison. Let's check out the cameras. The Nova 3i has a quad camera setup with 2 in front and 2 at the back. At the back, it has a 16 megapixel plus 2 megapixel setup and a 24 megapixel plus 2 megapixel setup at the front. Like the Nova 2i, the 2 megapixel secondary sensors are there to help with depth for portrait shots. For the V11, it's a 12 megapixel plus 5 megapixel rear setup and a 25 megapixel selfie shooter. The secondary rear camera helps with depth processing as well. As you can see with the rear setups of both phones, they have a low resolution secondary sensor that is used for depth for portrait shots. The Huawei camera UI has some familiar and newer features like Pro, slow motion, time lapse, HDR, 3D panorama, beauty, portrait, AR lens, 3D Qmoji, and more. It also has AI scene detection to improve exposure and post-processing accuracy. And lastly, video recording maxes out at 1080p at 60 FPS. VIVO's camera, like I talked about in the last comparison, is a lot better than it was before. We have typical features like HDR, Pro, Panorama, Bokeh, AR stickers, you know the drill. But unlike the Nova 3i, we get Google Lens to identify things you're curious about. You can compress and resize videos all within the app, just with a few taps. And the Portrait Studio mode has two new effects that look really cool. Loop light, which gives like a studio ring light effect, and rainbow light that adds a sort of lens flare feel to the shot. Both of these phones also have AI capabilities. Huawei focuses a lot on scene recognition, while Vivo's AI has emphasis on artificial beautification, so let's see how this pans out. Let's compare the sample shots, starting with the front cameras. So I was taking selfies in a well-lit room, with the windows being my main light source. And taking a look at these two, I have to say that the Nova 3i has a better shot. So when it comes to selfies, it all really boils down to how well the skin tone is captured, and the Nova 3i is able to do this slightly better than the V11. Oh, by the way, that was just automatic mode. No fancy filters or adjustments. Now let's take a look at portrait mode or bokeh effect selfies. Last time, the V11 took the win for this one over the F9, but this time it's a different story. The Nova 3i is a clear winner here as it delivered a more flattering bokeh effect with better separation of the subject from the background. If you guys remember, the Nova 3i has a secondary front camera to help with this sort of thing, which is why it's able to get a better shot. Now let's take a look at selfie videos. Both these shots look really similar with the same amount of detail and dynamic range, but I have to give this round to the Nova 3i for capturing more accurate skin tone. It's pretty much spot on compared to the V11, where my skin looks more yellowish. Okay, let's talk about the rear cameras now. So here are two shots of me taken from the same angle with the same lighting. For this one, it's a tie, because neither photo is really great, but both of them have their weaknesses. The Nova 3i captures a better skin tone and is exposed a little bit better. But on the other hand, it has so much noise in the dark areas compared to the V11 shot. The V11 has inferior colors here and isn't exposed as well, but it's quite a bit more detailed than the Nova 3i shot. So yeah, no one wins here. Okay, so next up is the same thing, but portrait mode is turned on. Let's see which phone can give us a better bokeh effect. So between these two shots, the Nova 3i is nicer. For the V11, a lot of detail has been lost, colors are washed out and too warm, and a lot of noise has been introduced to the image. The Nova 3i's image is cleaner, colors are more accurate, and it flat out does a better job of artificially blurring the background, as well as keeping it separate from the subject. Now let's look at some more shots that we took outside. Starting with these shots of a lamppost, we can see that the V11 is able to expose both the lamp itself and the bright sky, so it has better dynamic range. Same goes with these shots of the city skyline. But the Nova 3i is able to capture more vibrant colors, especially when we take a look at these shots of plants and of the swimming pool. This is Huawei Scene Detection AI at work. It quickly identifies what you're shooting and applies appropriate settings. So because of this, the Nova 3i wins in the rear camera category for photos. We still have to take a look at video. Now don't get me wrong, neither of these shots are particularly great. As you can see, both are really shaky because neither phone has good image stabilization. But the Vivo V11's video is more detailed and again has better colors. The Nova 3i shot is a little washed out and not sharp at all, as you can see in the building windows. So for the camera category, it's the Nova 3i for photo and the Vivo V11 for video. Now let's take a look at hardware, processor, RAM, and storage. So the V11 has a Snapdragon 660, 6GB of RAM, and 64GB of storage, while the Nova 3i has a Kirin 710 chipset, 4GB of RAM, and 128GB of storage. So for RAM, the V11 wins with its 6GB. That's a no contest, guys. For storage, the Nova 3i wins because of its large base capacity of 128GB. The V11 has a little trick up its sleeve with a dedicated micro SD slot, but a hybrid setup isn't the worst thing in the world. So now let's evaluate the processors. Both devices perform very well when it comes to everyday usage, multitasking, and gaming. But looking at the benchmark scores, the Kirin 710 does tend to outperform the Snapdragon 660. In Antutu, for example, it's 129,000 points versus 138,000 points, which is a significant margin. Performance-wise, the Nova 3i has the advantage, and you should also be able to see this even in graphics-heavy games. Okay, all the hardware stuff is done, so let's take a look at the software. Now this is where things get really subjective, because each device has its own Android skin, and it's a matter of personal preference when it comes to this. So the Nova 3i is running on EMUI 8.2, and the V11 is running on FunTouch OS 4.5, based on Android 8.1 Oreo. They're both very different looking UIs, and one isn't necessarily better than the other. In the end, again, it's a matter of personal preference with the features and UI. Because don't get me wrong, both of these have their own good things to offer. So if you guys really want to see which one you like better, I'd advise you to go to the stores and try out both phones for yourselves. Now finally, let's take a look at the price. The Huawei Nova 3i is currently priced at 15,990 pesos, while the VIVO V11's price in the Philippines has just been revealed. So with that, given how many categories, the Nova 3i has already won. It's a way better option than the V11. I mean, it's 4,000 pesos cheaper. Now it's conclusion time. So usually with these comparisons, we don't have a clear winner. But now that we're at the end and we've evaluated the aspects of both phones, the Nova 3i wins. It boils down to this, basically. If you want the arguably better design, smaller notch, better display and good at shooting videos, and under-display fingerprint scanner, then get the V11. But if you want better photos or selfies, and better performance at a lower price, then it's Nova 3i all the way. The Nova 3i's color enhancement due to the AI camera does a good job at improving the final images. Okay, I really hope you guys learned something from this video, and I hope we were able to help those of you looking to buy a new phone to make an informed decision. Which phone do you guys like better, Nova 3i or V11? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel for more content, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified of our latest uploads. Once again, this is YugaTech, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!